Namaste and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be speaking about how Ayurveda can help us when we have gastric issues or gastric problems ranging from irritable bowel syndrome, leaky gut, just indigestion, flatulence, bloating, basically any kind of symptoms of indigestion and not being able to digest food optimally and properly. My name is Rohil and I come from India where I have studied for many years yoga and Ayurveda. I have been teaching yoga and Ayurveda for over a decade now. So in this video, I'm going to be speaking about some of the major lifestyle tools and tips to avoid gastric problems and to recover from gastric problems. The reason I don't go too much into medication is that oftentimes in our modern age, especially because of the influences of modern medicine, even within Ayurveda, you'll have doctors who prescribe a particular medicine or pill for a particular ailment. Many Ayurvedic doctors are also trying to study those particular pills or herbs under double-blind clinical trials. However, from my perspective, when you're dealing with something like gastric issues, it is our body is very complex. It's not simply that we take a pill and it goes away, it's brushed away. When we do that, all we're dealing with is the symptoms of the problem, not the problem itself, not the root cause itself. So if you have indigestion or diarrhea, you pop a pill, okay, it's gone and it comes back after a few weeks. Or you have leaky gut, you keep popping pills, and then when you're better, it's for a while you don't take the pills and then again have to take it. And so you develop this dependency cycle with these herbs or medications, which is ultimately what we want to get out of, right? If we want to heal, we want to be in a position where we don't have to take any of those herbs or pills and our body is functioning at its optimal level. So today I'm going to be speaking about those lifestyle tips that can help us with our gastric problems. So number one, definitely very important, I would say it would be right up there, is snacking. So Ayurveda says that you should never snack. Snacking is very harmful for our digestive system. Snacking also puts a lot of strain on our gut, on our microbiome, the bacteria in our gut, and our stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and so on. So essentially what happens when we snack? For example, we eat our first meal at 8 a.m. We follow that up maybe half an hour or 40 minutes later with a cup of coffee or chai, and we have some chocolate with that. Maybe 40 minutes later, we end up at office. Somebody's got some cookies or donuts and we munch a little bit on that. Then maybe half an hour after that, we munch on some dry fruits. Maybe we have some ice cream, fruits and so on. And we keep munching like this throughout the day. So every time we munch, even if it's just 2 almonds or 3 almonds, we should count that as a meal. So ideally, according to Ayurveda, we should not have more than 3 meals a day. Somebody that has a high amount of Vata dosha, you can check out some of my other videos to learn more about the doshas in Ayurveda. But somebody that has a high amount of Vata dosha can consume 4 to 5 meals a day, maximum I would say 4. But otherwise everybody else should be consuming 3 meals a day. So what exactly is happening in the body when we snack? When I eat some food, this food enters through my food pipe to my stomach. And now after a period of time, the food will go from my stomach to my small intestine. So the amount of time it takes for the food to go from the stomach to the small intestine from the moment I've eaten it, this in science is known as gastric emptying. Gastric emptying is the amount of time it takes from the moment I chew the food until it leaves my stomach and goes into the small intestine. The average time of gastric emptying is usually between 2 to 3 hours. Some individuals who are teenagers, who are athletes, who are working out a lot as teenagers, might have a gastric emptying window which is even shorter, say 90 minutes or 75 minutes. However, most of us, as we age, as we get older, as we become more sedentary, our exercise levels drop, our activity levels drop, the gastric emptying also slows down dramatically, so that by the time we are in our old age, it might take even 4 hours, 5 hours, which is why people who get older feel lesser and lesser in need to eat so much or to eat so regularly. So this gastric emptying now is happening with the aid of a muscle, a sphincter muscle called the pleuric sphincter. So essentially, when I have eaten my breakfast and that food is sitting in my stomach, it's mixing with the digestive acids, the stomach enzymes, with the bacteria in my gut, and all of that is breaking down the food, preparing it to take it into the small intestine. Now, what happens? I've eaten this breakfast and it takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours for my stomach to do its operations. But already before that has finished, I have added some cookies in, some peanuts, some milk, and I've kept snacking throughout that period. Now, what happens is that this pleuric sphincter muscle is not so sophisticated that it can somehow decipher that I have eaten this food, maybe my breakfast, which was say a paratha or a chapati in the morning, and I've eaten this food 2 hours ago, so it's ready to move into the small intestine. So it allows that food to move into the small intestine, but it immediately stops all the other food that's now in my belly, which I've been snacking since then for the last 2 hours. It stops and keeps that in the belly for further digestion. So the sphincter muscle cannot make such a discernment or a judgment. So if it relaxes, it opens up, all the contents of the stomach will move into the small intestine, including the food I ate 5 or 10 minutes ago, which might have been some peanuts. It's completely undigested as it moves into my small intestine. And so now what I'm going to experience are symptoms of irritability in the intestine because the food is not properly broken down. I'm going to experience, if I keep snacking for a longer period of time, I'm going to experience inflammation in the intestines. This inflammation in the intestines may cause my intestine walls to start to be some cracks or what we would call leaky gut syndrome. It could even cause irritable bowel syndrome, all kinds of problems from snacking too much regularly for a prolonged period of time. There can also be an opposite reaction, is that the sphincter muscle starts to get confused because I'm continuously snacking. It knows that there is a lot of undigested food in the stomach. So the sphincter muscle might say, okay, I'm not going to relax until I feel the time is right. And so this food that was in my stomach from breakfast 2 hours ago, it remains in my stomach for a longer and longer period of time, up to 4 or 5 hours. And when this happens, when the food stays for so long, it slows down our entire metabolic rate. And as it slows down our metabolic rate, we will experience slow, sluggish metabolism, which will come up with symptoms of lethargy, tiredness, fatigue, and ultimately, of course, putting on weight. We will put on weight, especially in the upper body. So upper body obesity is another symptom of a sluggish or slow metabolism, and this can be caused just through snacking. So you can consume 2,000 calories with 3 meals a day, or you can consume 2,000 calories with 10 really small meals throughout the day. And for most people, those 10 really small meals throughout the day will cause you to put on more weight than spreading those 2,000 calories over just 3 meals. So it's not just about the macros or the caloric number, but it's about how we are consuming it, how it is getting digested before moving into the small intestine, and so on. How is it interacting with our metabolic rate? So snacking is essentially a poison for the body. A good way to counter if you've been snacking for prolonged periods of time is to do intermittent fasting. No need to do it for prolonged periods, just for a couple of months to reset our metabolism, and then come back to your 3 meals a day is perfect. The second important thing for dealing with gastric problems from a lifestyle perspective is to focus on going towards a mono diet. So what this means is that you want to be eating as few things in a single sitting as possible. So when we go for a buffet, for instance, we have 4 or 5 different sources of protein. Somebody may have some chicken, some fish, some lentils, some salad, and then we'll have few different sources of carbs. We'll have a bit of rice, some wheat, some other dish made from millets. So we kind of sample so many different dishes, and each particular food that we intake has a different rate of metabolism, a different rate of breaking down within our body. And when we introduce so many different foods into our gut at the same moment, it puts a lot of pressure on our digestion. So ideally, this is another thing that we should really take care of, especially if we are experiencing already gastric problems. Trying to stick to a mono diet, one major source of protein, one major source of carbohydrates. Don't mix rice and wheat or chapati and rice in the same meal. Try to keep them separate meals. I'm all for eating a variety of foods, eating as many different types of vegetables, many different types of fruits, different types of grains. I'm all for eating with a large variety. Just don't try to bring all that variety into one single meal. So that variety should be spread over the week. So for my lunch, I eat one grain, I eat rice, I maybe have my major source of protein is some lentils, and I have some vegetable along with it. So I just have a few different foods, not having too many different foods at one sitting. This is really, really important. And as we are already talking about mono dieting, I would also mention food combinations here. So generally for gastric problems, we don't want to eat more than one major source of protein per meal. So we don't want to mix fish with meat. We don't want to mix, for example, dairy with meat, unless of course it's only in the form of ghee. Ghee is fine, ghee or butter, but we should not be mixing ideally too much dairy with meat. We don't want to be mixing lentils, beans with meat, or many different types of beans together. Of course, there are some dishes which mix together different types of beans and lentils and so on. But here I am particularly addressing the problem of gastric issues, and so we would avoid any kind of mixing. Second, we would also avoid mixing any fruits with protein sources in the meal or with other food. We can have fruits with by itself, or we can have fruits with nuts, or if we want to eat fruits with our meal, we can have it in a cooked format. So having like an apple pie after the meal is totally fine if the fruits are in a cooked format, but not mixing your fruits with food, especially not having fruit right after your meal, as the fruits break down or metabolize in the body very quickly as compared to foods, all the other foods, protein and other sources of food, and thus we can have fruits as a separate meal all by itself. Another important lifestyle habit to avoid gastric problems or to recover from gastric problems is making sure that we are not consuming very cold foods. When we drink cold water, when we have ice cream after our food, or some very cold foods, what this does is this really puts a dampener on our metabolism. Inner core temperature, which is required for digestion of food, is slightly higher than our normal body temperature as well. And so we want to keep our inner body warm. If we have warm water, especially first thing in the morning and also throughout the day, this will really aid in our digestion. Having warm herbal teas after your meal is perfect. Not having too many cold things, drinking ice cold water, eating ice cream with your meals and so on. Trying to avoid this completely, as this is going to slow down your metabolism and further exaggerate these gastric problems. The next thing I would like to speak about is stimulants. Stimulants are stimulating the nervous system and consuming high amounts of caffeine, whether it's in black tea, in chai, in coffee, or using other kinds of stimulants like matcha and so on, is better avoided if you are experiencing gastric problems. Trying to cut down these stimulants, trying to cut down on nicotine, tobacco, as these will all aggravate your symptoms of gastric problems and will not help you get to a long-term state of health and well-being with regards to your gut. The last and most important thing that I wanted to speak about when it comes to healing your gastric problems is to keep in mind the connection between our gut and our brain. So modern science in the last 10 years has found amazing connections, between the gut and the brain, something that Ayurveda has known for thousands of years, which is just coming out in modern neuroscience. So when I refer to the gut, I'm referring to the entire, from the mouth, the entire, all the digestive organs from the mouth, the food pipe, the stomach, small intestine, large intestine, colon, bladder, so all the way from the hole here to the hole at the bottom. That is what I'm referring to as our gut. And we now know that there is approximately 20 to 30 trillion bacterial cells found in the human gut. These bacteria are very important for helping to process and break down foods, and we are based on our genetics, based on our lifestyle, our habits, this bacteria keeps changing within our body. There is some bacteria that is useful for digesting sugar, for example. Some bacteria that is useful for breaking down and digesting, say, protein from animal sources. There is some bacteria useful for digesting protein from plant sources. So depending on what we eat, depending on our genetics, what our ancestors ate and so on, we are more predisposed to digest and metabolize particular kinds of foods. That is, we can better digest certain foods over the others based on our lifestyle and also based on our genetics. Modern science has also shown us that it's not just about, the gut is not just affected by the foods that we eat, but it's also affected by our stress levels and mental health. So if you are really stressed, you're going through a period of anxiety, your nervous system is on high alert, you're having panic attacks, you're experiencing anxiety, depression, all of these mental effects of stress will also be translated to the gut. There is a nerve called the vagus nerve which connects the gut to the brain, and this nerve is stimulated when we are under great amounts of stress. We activate the sympathetic branch of our nervous system, the fight or flight branch, and conversely, when we are completely relaxed, calm and peaceful, we activate the parasympathetic branch of the nervous system, or the rest and digest branch. And the vagus nerve is kind of a mediator or a communicator between the gut and the brain. So a lot of studies have found that when we go through prolonged periods of stress or chronic stress, this affects our gut and can cause us to experience gastric problems, gastric issues like the ones I've been mentioning: leaky gut, irritable bowel, upper body obesity, just general indigestion and so on. You would have also noticed that on a particular day when you become really stressed, your gut will not do well, your digestion will be a bit off. So say for example, you have a really stressful day at work, or a loved one is in a health crisis, or any of these kind of stressful situations, you will find that on that day or the next day your digestion is really not good. And this is because when we are in a state of heightened stress, this impacts the gut and the digestive processes. So our nervous system is designed to prioritize certain actions in the body while deprioritizing or putting on the back certain other actions. So when we become really stressed, our nervous system makes it a point to bring energy to our brain so that we can make quick decisions, and it also brings energy to our muscles so that we can activate these muscles and maybe fight or run away from that stress or do something to get ourselves out of that stress. While there is an increased energy to our brain and our muscles, the energy is at the same time taken away from the functioning of our inner organs, from the functioning from our digestive processes, and from our hormonal systems. So when we stay for a prolonged period in chronic stress, we experience poor digestion, problems with our hormonal balances, and also a weakening of our inner organs. So thus it is really important, if we seek to heal any gastric problems, to first address stress, anxiety, which are essentially affecting our nervous system. So we want to have a calm, grounded nervous system, which means we would avoid, again, having any stimulants. We would have high quality relaxation, breathing, meditation. We would try to process emotions or traumas that are always at the back of our mind, eating up our energy, causing us to feel panicked or stressed. We need to resolve these emotions through various practices, through meditation, through sharing with others, through journaling, and so on. Essentially, you cannot heal when your body is in a state of stress. Our body is highly intelligent and can heal us from any kind of gastric problems without taking any supplements, herbs, medications. Of course, a supplement or a herb can help support us as we go on that journey of healing. But ultimately, our body's intelligence is so amazing that it can heal itself. But it can only heal itself in a relaxed state of mind. When the mind is calm, peaceful, that is when the body can heal itself. When we are stressed, anxious, the body cannot loses its capacity to heal itself, because the functions that are prioritized in the body are not related to healing and restoration, but what is prioritized is survival. And if we are in survival mode, we cannot restore. So we need to first find a way to ground our nervous system to become calm, peaceful, and for most of us, that by itself will take away 90% of our gastric problems. So I hope you like this video. Do subscribe if you haven't been following me already. Do give this video a like. Do drop your comment of what you thought about my suggestions. And if you have any video recommendations for me to do in the future, I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. Namaste and have a good day.